Taiwan. I'm Unveils with 10 minutes of news from here in Taiwan and around the world. Taiwan's President-elect Lai Ching-te has made Time Magazine's list of 2024's 100 most influential people ahead of his inauguration next month. Lai's entry to the list was written by former U.S. Ambassador to China, John Huntsman Jr., who says that Lai is tasked with ensuring the survival of Taiwan's government amid rising tensions with China. Taiwan's presidential office has responded to the current vice president's inclusion, saying it shows international recognition of Taiwan's democratic achievements. 20 opposition KMT lawmakers plan to visit China next week. As John Ventress reports, the plan has had a mixed reaction among their colleagues.
It's Taiwan's newest political controversy. 20 members of Taiwan's legislature, all members of the opposition Kuomintang, are going to China on a 4-day visit. They leave next Friday. At the head of the delegation is caucus whip Fu Kunqi, who has this to say about the trip across the Taiwan Strait.
这是一个非常关键重要的时刻。赖总统还没有上任之前，如果在野党能够来加把劲，回复两岸的持续的沟通。
That communication has largely broken down over the past 8 years, as Beijing has refused to engage with the Democratic Progressive Party, which has been in power in Taiwan since 2016. The DPP rejects China's claims to Taiwan, and crucially, the idea that Taiwan is part of China in any way. In the years since then, Beijing has stepped up its military intimidation against Taiwan. Any visit by current members of Taiwan's government is therefore highly sensitive, and news of this planned visit has divided lawmakers, especially given its timing. It comes just after former President Ma Ying-jeou met with Chinese leader Xi Jinping, and just weeks before Taiwan's next president, Lai Ching-te, takes office. Some in the Kuomintang appear accepting, especially as the visit is timed to avoid votes on the floor.
尊重各个委员他们自己在时间上的安排，党内各个团体只要到对岸去，我相信都是基于中华民国宪法。
But there's also confusion in some corners of the party. Some caucus members weren't told about the plans ahead of time.
我完全不知道，我们有不少委员在会期当中尽量不要出国，就我个人也是会这样自我要求。
The ruling party, meanwhile, is viewing the planned trip with suspicion.
在中国见了什么人，说了什么话，要能够符合社会的期待。
Over a week before the visit begins, different sections of Taiwan's political spectrum already know where they stand on it. Scott Huang and John Ventress for TaiwanPlus.
May 19th has been made an annual Memorial Day for Taiwan's White Terror period of political violence. The cabinet announced the creation of White Terror Memorial Day on Thursday. It comes in response to calls to recognize victims of authoritarian rule in Taiwan. The White Terror was a 4-decade period of political repression in which thousands were executed and imprisoned. Taiwan's cabinet designated May 19th as a Remembrance Day, but not a public holiday. Taiwanese chip giant TSMC says its production line were back to normal within 3 days following a major earthquake on April 3rd. The company says no equipment was damaged, but wafers in production at the time of the quake had to be scrapped. The chipmaker said its net profits grew by nearly 9% year-on-year in the first quarter. The revenue was down by 3.8% compared to the previous quarter. Taiwan is set to open its first overseas chips training center in the Czech Republic this September. It's part of a 10-year program by Taiwan's government to support industrial innovation. Over $9 billion has been budgeted for this project, and there are plans to bring around 100 students in the first year. To learn more about the significance of this collaboration, our reporter Joyce Zhen spoke to Jakob Janda, the Prague-based director of the European Value Center for Security Policy.
How did Prague become the destination for this chips design training center from Taiwan, and how significant is it for the Czech Republic and its industry?
Prague is currently the leading place for cooperation with Taiwan from Europe. One is the political support for Taiwan-Czech relations. At this moment, Czech Republic is, politically speaking, the best friend of Taiwan in Europe. We have Czech president having phone calls with Taiwanese president. We have Czech government openly supporting Taiwan, declaring it, even writing it down in the policy government documents. But we also are the only European country with actually majority supporting Taiwan in both chambers of the Czech parliament, which is quite rare. I think it's important to look at it geographically as well, because as we know, TSMC will be building a factory in Dresden in Germany, which is pretty close. It's just a couple of hours by drive by car from the Czech borders. And actually the closest big airport to this future factory is Prague, is the Prague airport. In many ways, Czech Republic wants to position itself as pretty much the hub of Taiwanese investment related to semiconductors.
As you're describing, this center could help Europe's semiconductor supply chain beyond the Czech Republic. How does this center serve as an important example of CHIPS diplomacy?
I would say that's the kind of maybe the best tool Taiwanese diplomacy in general has, because one thing is to talk on the rhetorics about how we are similar, how we like each other, how our values are the same, which is good, but then needs to come the kind of political firepower. And in the case of Taiwan, it's definitely the semiconductor industry. In Europe, we are really struggling with keeping our car making industry alive. This huge involvement of Taiwan in the supply chain, that's pretty much what is seen as very strategic. And it goes beyond the kind of diplomatic rhetorics because it's very substantial. And the most important thing is that actually European business wants this. They are really desperate to get this. That's something what makes them very much reconsider their relationship to China, because they start understanding how Taiwan is important to them as well, not only to politics, but to themselves as business leaders, which is very good, actually.
That was Jakob Yanda, director of the European Value Center for Security Policy, speaking to our reporter Joyce Zhen. 2 nannies in Taipei have been indicted over the death of a 1-year-old boy in their care. The Taipei prosecutor's office charged the pair, who are sisters, of intentionally harming a child, resulting in death. The office says the boy was routinely subjected to physical abuse and intentional malnourishment. The charges come amid a series of high-profile child abuse cases that have shocked Taiwan. The health ministry says it has come up with a way to make social workers' lives easier. But as John Van Trieste reports, this high-tech solution doesn't meet all the demands these workers have made in recent protests.
Just short of a month after social workers took to the streets demanding better conditions, the health ministry has unveiled a computer program it says will take much of the burden out of social work. Some features, like voice-to-text transcription for note-taking, are already standard on the average smartphone. But the developers say even this will make a big difference.
语音转文字档的部分整体来算可以缩减到12万个小时，以1年为做一个估算。
And there are other features you won't find on your phone or tablet. Smart Maps will give social workers a glance at support and other resources available nearby. There's a smart risk assessment feature that tells social workers about the environment of the household they're about to visit. And there's a virtual reality training program too.
当它风险高的情况之下，就可以依照这样一个风险的程度来跟警察请求协助。希望说，社工如果他要去做家访的时候，他或许就可以再看一下，说，他要针对哪一个题目、哪一个主题，再自我再强化一点。
Some social workers who've given the platform a try have good things to say.
风险预警的部分，评估它的那个风险程度是高中低。那这个部分我觉得在实务上做家访是很有帮助的。我们可以预先做一些因应。
But while it may be helpful, this platform doesn't address several key demands from social workers, among them a re-examination of pay and workload. While the platform is set to be used by over 100 social welfare stations, plus dozens of mental health and abuse crisis centers, it might not be all frontline workers there had hoped for. Justin Wu and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website and follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, take a look at the sight of millions of tulips blooming in Istanbul. I'm Ethan Liu. Take care, and I'll see you next time.